Welcome again to the Broke Digger Gaming. Today we delve into the first DLC of Remnant 2 called The Awakened King. A phenomenal DLC, brimming with new content. Be warned, there are some minor spoilers ahead. If you've not played Remnant 1 or Remnant 2, I wholly suggest that you do this. This is probably going to be my Game of the Year contender, if not Game of the Year, as it is for many other people. Now, before we get into the DLC, let's have a quick reminder of Remnant 2. For your information, I also have a full overview of the base game on this channel, made a few months ago. If you wish to watch that, it's a nice approximate 10-minute package on my YouTube channel. So Remnant 2 is a third-person shooter action role-playing game developed by Gunfire Games and published by Gearbox Publishing. It's a sequel to Remnant from the Ashes, a game that was released on PlayStation 5, Windows and the Xbox consoles in July 2023. It received generally positive reviews from critics and sold over 1 million units during its first week up to launch. Remnant 2 is what Dark Souls could be if everything was based around guns, but this is a very basic understatement of a truly in-depth Souls game. The bosses here at least as vicious and tough, if not more so, than in any other Souls game if you play them on the harder difficulty levels. The enemies dotting the landscape can also be very fearsome, ranging from the basic pinion to very tough elites. Remnant 2 is set after Subject 2923, which is the final downloadable content pack released for Remnant from the Ashes. The game's story follows a nameless survivor who is tasking with stopping the Root, a race of evil plant species which seeks to destroy the multiverse. Having played 100 hours of Remnant 2 and continuing to find more content still hidden in the game after the final boss, the base game peaked at all over 100k players on Steam, which is no small feat. We now come to the first DLC, one of the three promised by Gunfire Games to finish off the year on an absolutely gangbuster high. After nearly 10 hours and 2 playthroughs, I have still not found everything that this DLC has to offer. It's absolutely huge for what you are getting. The title of this DLC is The Awakened King, and from the size of the download for this update, the work that Gunfire has shown in Remnant 1, its DLCs, and even more so in this year's Remnant 2 sequel, we are definitely in for a chunky amount of quality content. Gunfire has stated that this DLC is approximately 3 to 6 hours long, depending on your playstyle and how much effort you put in to finding everything it has to offer. If you're a fan of Remnant 2 as I am and have put 100 hours into the base game, I think none of us will be disappointed with the quality and quantity of the content. It is currently my Game of the Year for 2023, with Diablo 4, Alan Wake 2 and Starfield barking at its heels. Having now played their DLC in depth, I can pretty much confirm that it will be my #1 game for 2023. Sadly, the game is only nominated in the action game section of the Game Awards, but not the final overall Game of the Year. Still, considering how dodgy these awards have been for several years, we are lucky enough just to get into the action adventure nomination. Now back to the DLC. The story. After rolling the adventure mode and you start the DLC, you find yourself in Lossum in a completely new area called the Forlorn Coast. The one true king has returned from his slumber, now corrupted by the Root, to achieve vengeance on the populace and his minions who backstabbed him and sent him into what would supposedly be an endless banishing. And let me tell you, the one true king is not a happy chap. As you'll learn, he believes the Fae betrayed him and the Dran have rightfully taken their place instead. An inquisitive player will see a familiar face, his semi-hidden only minutes into the DLC, and you won't be surprised who it is, as that person or being was part of the plot to retire the true king originally. So that being is definitely culpable in this DLC. Player soon learns that the one true king believes that the Fae betrayed him. As you start your walk along the shoreline of the forlorn waterfront. You're in the middle of a heavy rainstorm. Gunfire Games has managed to make Blossom even more picturesque than before, as you spot the town in the background, together with the mysterious castle that has appeared on the horizon. Where you go from here is ultimately your choice, but the dank sewers may possibly be one of your choices. Where do they lead? Who knows? Throughout the DLC, and especially at the start, players will notice some NPCs with a yellow reticle when aiming at them. This signifies that instead of opening fire on them, you may indeed talk to them instead. Like with the base game, players will need multiple playthroughs of the DLC to see, earn, and meet, hear everyone and what they have to say. The new Ritualist class available in the DLC is a true love letter to absolute sledge hammering pain to the enemy. While some classes only work best once mixed, equipping Ritualist in the primary slot grants the prime perk Vile. The perk deals an additional 15% status damage to all enemies and spreads all status effects to nearby enemies on death. Enemies suffering from bleeding, shock, or anything will apply it infectiously. I mean, how good is that? There are more reasons to play, as this archetype, the new class, is so good that one could talk about it for hours. There are new weapons, some absolutely fearsome, even compared to the base game. I, however, have only managed to get one new per playthrough, meaning so far that I have 2 new weapons. Plenty more playthroughs to get through for the first DLC. After 6 hours on the first playthrough and into my second, I continued to find new rings and amulets as well. The game is brimming with them like it was in the base game. Now for some good and negative points. Gunfire Games has made the overworld look beautiful around Lossum and the Forlorn Coast. However, I have noticed some assets being reused, especially in dungeon and close-up areas. Not a major issue, as this is a DLC, but it's a point to note. Secondly, and for many this may be a positive or a negative, I personally failed to encounter any real puzzle areas like in the main game. For me personally, I bloody well hate puzzles. And although the base game generally made them so, in the first game it was actually most of the time a delight to play and work things out. A very rare thing for me to actually enjoy puzzle elements in games. It's very similar to the Fallout series where you have to pick those locks. I can accept those puzzles as well, but anything more complicated, then my brain starts to rebel. So what else is left to say? The DLC continues to unravel new items and enemies, even after a solid 12 plus hours of gaming. I can't believe how many items, areas, hidden puzzles there are for a mere $10. I had a sneaking suspicion after playing Remnant years ago, and I bought the Ultimate Edition of Remnant 2 being pretty confident that the game, the DLCs, including in Ultimate Edition, give you a massive amount of replayability, and this DLC is an absolute steal for $10 if you don't have the Ultimate Edition. The Awakened King ties for me with Phantom Liberty as the 2 best DLCs of 2023 bar none. Also, as I have stated, Remnant 2 is my game of the year until something, or if something drastically changes in the next couple of weeks. This DLC gets a 9 out of 10 for me. Anyway, stay tuned on my channel where I will have a video of my top 10 games of 2023 with honorable mentions coming soon. Again, thank you for listening and watching this review. If you liked it, maybe consider thumbing up the video, subscribing or sharing it around. It would help me a lot as a new content creator. I'll try my best to offer the most unbiased black and white reviews on YouTube as possible. So it appears that less and less of established YouTubers are being impartial as the last couple of years flow along. Anyway, thank you again, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.
Thanks for watching the video until the end. If you liked it, subscribe and leave me a comment